Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for our new knowledge session. This is a series of professional business development workshops to support small business owners and nonprofits in Washington County and around the Commonwealth. My name is Nita Farmer, and I'm with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and we are happy to partner with the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator. And we have Jean with us in the town of Abington and Isaiah Thomas and Locust to present the Business and Organizational Skill Development Workshop. This partnership was created in 2014 to support the Washington County Business Challenge, and it has become one of the oldest running business training sessions in Virginia. There are over 200 YouTube videos that have been created, and they can all be viewed on our YouTube New Knowledge channel. We also have them listed on the incubator homepage with links to our YouTube channel. Today's session is entitled Federal Disaster Assistance for Businesses and will be recorded for training and educational purposes. Before we get started, I want to mention that in order to keep the meeting flowing and stay within the 1 hour goal, all participants will be muted. However, we do want to hear from you. So we ask you that you put your questions in the Q&A or chat. And now I'd like to welcome Carl Knobloch, District Director in the Virginia SBA District Office. Prior to this, he was the District Director for Western Pennsylvania SBA District Office. Prior to becoming District Director, Carl owned and operated small businesses from manufacturing to service industry. In addition, he has served as a C-level executive for innovative startups. He has been involved in more than 50 crowdsourcing projects. He was a foster parent for over 13 years. He served the country in the U.S. Navy. Thank you for your service in the Navy, Carl, and also for your partnership. Carl's motto, strive to be a success. Strive not to be a success, but rather to be a value, from Albert Einstein. Welcome, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you, Nita, and welcome everyone. And thank you to the New Knowledge team who's been doing this for years. It's a valuable tool. I wish more people would take advantage of it because there's a lot of great information. I know I listen to it. So with that, today we're going to talk about disaster, and I have a cohort on the line who's actually the point person for Virginia, Raphael, who's down here dealing with the disaster and has been a huge help, and I truly appreciate everything he's been doing. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so unfortunately, as we all know, late September. Anyway, as you know, Tropical Storm Helena hit. And this picture, I know a lot of you have seen. Initially, Governor had the foresight to request that disaster be declared before the storm hit. So all the players, FEMA and all that, were all aware of the situation that potentially could happen. And initially when it happened, these were the original locations that were hit. And since that time, it's expanded, and we'll talk further about that. But the one thing is, like everybody said, we weren't expecting it to be this bad. And, you know, it's all about understanding, as we were talking about earlier. Earlier in the week, you had gotten a nice rain, which saturated everything. And then you get this on top. And then once the mudslides start, trees fall, they create natural dams, and it creates natural flooding points. And we get the ripple effect because of it. And unfortunately, a lot of people suffer. Damascus was, you know, one of the hardest hit areas in that. So it's a thing that we always talk about, and we can prepare, but you know, Mother Nature is always going to rule, and we have to think of ways, how do we counter that? So when it does happen, what do we do next? And as you saw, originally it was the storm was identified around 25th of September. And ours, as I will pull up later, goes from basically that date till October 3rd. So that's what the disaster time frame is for Virginia. And you will see how many counties have been added since then. It pretty much runs from Roanoke, the city of Roanoke, down Southwest Virginia into the South Side area. So that's all the area. And then that also the border states, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, West Virginia, have also been impacted in that same venue. And the president declared it a disaster on October 1, which opens up a lot of opportunities from the federal government being able to assist. We are one player. The main player is FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. They are the backbone. They're the ones that get all the infrastructure going. They're the ones that work with the nonprofit, the Southwest Virginia United Way, the American Red Cross. They are intricate players in all this to take care of what we call the initial things. Your health, food, water, clothing, shelter. That's kind of what they do. And then they move in and start trying to get things removed. So roadways can open up, so we can get assistance more directly to people and try to start moving their lives forward. I'm going to talk briefly about SBA because that's who I represent. The one thing is when they declared a presidential disaster, it kind of opens up more opportunities for the people living in those communities. The first is typically when we get a disaster identified, it's lots of economic injury disaster loans. So like in COVID, that's what it was for. So that's for businesses and nonprofits. When we get a presidential declaration, physical disaster, then at that point, it opens up the opportunity for businesses to actually get assistance up to $2 million for the physical damage to their building, to equipment, all those type things. So they have up to $2 million they can use for that. At the same time, they have the ability to go after economic injury disaster loans that are for the working capital side of their business. The one thing is that when it's a physical side, this only goes till December 2nd, roughly at this point in time. There has been a request from the governor for a 60-day extension. FEMA's in negotiations with them concerning that. But the economic disaster loan goes until next July, 2025, because some businesses may not feel the effect until later on, the ripple effect, as we call it. So, and that's a great thing that businesses need to understand, and lots of times gets forgotten as we recover from the disaster. People forget that that loan is still out there and can help them, but people realize that the agencies are gone and everything, and they just think they have no opportunity, but it is still there. Also with this, we are the federal disaster arm of the federal government. And so we can do home loans to homeowners up to $500,000 to replace the home or to repair the home. Also, there's $100,000 for incidental, which means you lose your stove, your refrigerator, your car. That's what this is used for, can assist. And the thing is that we can do renters. So the renters can get the incidentals up to $100,000. So if they lose their clothing and all that. So it's all there. Typically, the interest rate for this disaster, and it adjusts depending on the different disasters. For businesses, it's 4%. most of the time. Nonprofits 3.25. With homeowners, renters, that adjusts 2.8, 2.6 range. So that's where it's at this point. And thing is, depending on choice, it's up to 15 years or 30 years to pay back. So there's no penalty if you pay it back early, but gives you plenty of time. And what's really nice about this, and this is a recent change, and I give a lot of credit to Administrator Guzman, that you have 12 months before you make the first payment, and that first 12 months is 0% interest. That's a huge help to help people get back on their feet before they have to start making that first payment. And that's kind of unheard of. So I give a lot of credit to them. The other thing is they always talk about collateral because these are loans. These are not grants. You know, up to the first 50,000, there's no collateral discussion, but you can never be denied if you don't have collateral. And that's the other thing. And we don't look at your credit score. We look at the ability to pay back. So I'll give an example. I was involved in one case where the homeowners lost their home. They were in their 90s, and they said, well, we won't get it because of our age. I said, we can't look at your age. We have to look at the ability to pay back only. And so these are things that we try to make people aware of. Don't assume. Please take advantage of the disaster recovery centers, our hotline, our email, to ask those questions to assist you through the process. Too many people just make an assumption and lose opportunities. The one thing with this is with our new focus of the whole community approach, before we used to come in, we would be in, provide our loans, and then once the loans were done for the period of time that we were going to do, we were gone. And then it was kind of forgotten about. Now with the new concept, even though we may have gone back to the disaster team that's currently in here and that, we still have SBA people assigned to work with the local community to make sure that things that are needed are still finding ways to get provided for, whether it's through nonprofits, other agencies, whether federal, state, endowments, all those type of things. So trying to create that all-in-one inclusive type of working together. So it's a new philosophy. It's new for us, and we're trying to work through it. We're learning from it. And like I said, it's really trying to be there for the long term because we want the community to recover totally, not just partially. And then after 5 years from now, it still looks like it's been devastated. So it's kind of a new way we look at things. Also, they're in constant communication. They're pushing the message. Even if nobody shows up to an activity, they're still going to be out there pushing the message. They're not going to stop because at the end of the day, if we help one person, we moved it in the right direction, and that's what matters. And that one person becomes a voice for us, and that's what we look at. The one thing I want to point out, as I said, Raphael is on the line here. He's the officer in charge for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and he's based out of Bristol. And he's done a great job, and he's running around to all the different DRCs, BRCs, and I'll put those up in a minute so you can see where they're located. And then Jim, I've been with him at several activities where he's making the pitch of what's available to assist and everything. So they are working late into the night up early, trying to make sure they can help as many people as possible through this whole process. And they work closely with FEMA, they work closely with USDA. They're trying to find the locals and also the Commonwealth of Virginia, who they work with, and when they find a new opportunity, they're immediately pushing it out to try to assist. Just like last week, Jim found a new grant that was being put out by the Chamber of Commerce and American Express, and so related to the Milton and Helena storm. And so they are working hard, not just to, before it used to be just SBA only. They are looking at everything to make sure that the community knows about everything that potentially could be going on, which is a real positive. When we talk about other resources, I put the first one, disaster assistance. That's FEMA's. That's where FEMA wants you to go to pursue their opportunities. They are grants that they have. They're lower dollar amounts. And the thing is that their main focus is getting the community opened up. So the raw materials can get to them, like water, food, things like that easily. So that's their main focus through this whole process. And they work closely with the American Red Cross, and with this particular incident, Southwest Virginia United Way is an intricate player in this, and I give them kudos for all the hard work they're doing. The Commonwealth of Virginia, especially on the rural side, is being leaned on heavily to find out what programs they have available to put out. And I'll show you, because there's a couple of resource days coming up this week to illustrate where they're bringing all the players together, so people could see what's available to them. As time goes on, potentially more federal money will come into the state as requested by the state, and that typically trickles down then to local government, and then local government makes the decisions how those resources get moved about. We see during these times local foundations, endowments step up, and then those that have a particular focus in disaster and that on a nationwide also have a tendency to come in to assist in really hard areas like what we just went through here with this. And I've already talked about two main players of in our area for the nonprofits. Faith-based usually come in later. Initially, they're there to service, but much later, they have a tendency to get things on. I'll just use a classic example: is hot water heaters. Somebody will literally donate 100 hot water heaters to them, and it's their job just to get them out into the community, so people can replace the one they lost. So those things do happen, and that's the kind of that whole of SBA concept of trying to understand where those resources are at, so that gets communicated into the community so people are aware to take advantage of these. Also, during these times, there's a lot of people that want to volunteer, and that's great, but there's usually the onslaught. And what's really important when communities are trying to recover, it's after everybody leaves, that's when they really need the volunteers. Because there's still a lot of things that need to get done. And they just figure the local communities can deal with it. But the local communities are just trying to deal with the day-to-day, what's going on. And that's kind of forgotten. And that's kind of where universities and colleges have a tendency to get their young people involved to assist with that, and that's a big help with the different resources they have and things. So these are all the things that are interconnected that we don't talk about, but with our new focus, the whole community, this is kind of everybody work trying to connect with, so we have that longevity to create true economic recovery. I know the small business development centers have been intricate here initially, trying to connect into the businesses to help them with their applications and that. And they've done a yeoman's task. Cindy spending a lot of time in Damascus, April in the Galox area, Becky, Lee County, Wise area, Denise in the Tazewell area, Russell, Amanda and Giles and Montgomery and that. So there's been a lot of players of the SBCCs working hard to help the businesses to get those applications in, to get themselves moving forward in a positive direction. The other is the Apex Accelerators. Theirs is really for government contracting opportunities, and also those that have government contracts, but because of the storm have been impacted. So trying to get waivers from the agencies as an interim until they get back on their feet. So it's all working as one. I know the local lenders have signed a decree of a number of them to work to help people in the local community that maybe had loans with them and things like that to work out some kind of deals in that. So they saw that early on, stepped up, and I give them a lot of credit. Department of Agriculture and also with the Commonwealth of Virginia ag divisions, the different divisions, like I just did one last Saturday with Farm Services, talking about what they had available to help the agricultural community, the Internal Revenue Service, communication with them, especially if you're paying taxes and things like that, from a business standpoint or payroll taxes, really trying to make sure they're aware of your situation so they work with you to get you. Supply chain, Gen Edge, which is funded partially by the federal government, trying to help you if you've lost your supply chain. What could potentially assist you to get you back on your feet if you don't currently have what's available to you. And that's probably one of the biggest things I want to point out here. The one thing I've heard is a common theme through this process is how many businesses were dependent on one supplier. And because of that, they are literally shut down. Even though they may be operational, they can't move because they can't get raw material. And so the one thing I always stress to people is always having multiple vendors, at least two, and I always called it the 25-75 rule. One vendor got 25%, the other got 75% of your business. Why? You always knew where you had it, but if something would happen, you had the backup. And it's really shown itself here how many businesses I've encountered that cannot move forward because they don't have a supply chain, and literally trying to find suppliers for them now. It becomes very difficult. Also, the location. I had some that literally did not really realize where their suppliers were located, and all their suppliers were impacted. I have one, he's in 6 different locations tied to the Helena, and all his suppliers are out of commission. So understanding where they're located is an intricate part. And when I had my businesses, I was preparing raw material that came out of Louisiana. Every time a hurricane came, potentially was coming, I was ordering train loads of material to bring up the stage in Maryland until I needed it, because I knew they were going to shut down operations down there, and I didn't know how long they may be out. So these are things you do as a business if you're really truly understanding the ripple effect what a disaster could cause. We don't think about it a lot here in the Commonwealth because we don't expect to get hit by a hurricane or a strong tropical storm. And but in the past recent years, we have been feeling that effect. Floyd a few years back really devastated North Carolina and parts of Virginia. It's becoming more common. So we're going to have to kind of change our mindset that a disaster can happen pretty much at any place now with the dynamics of what's going on with the climate and things like that. You know, disaster assistant, you know, some of the companies I've been talking to, I said, have you contacted your suppliers? No, because I can't use anything right now because I'm down. And I'm going, no, I mean, if you're paying to them, payment terms, things like that, or potentially you need something, is there something, a way you could barter with another business to get something you need, and at the same time, they get something in return. It's really thinking different to try to make those things happen. There's a lot of people that want to volunteer and help, but they don't know how to help. And that's where lots of times small businesses and people in the community are not good at communicating what they really need. And so I always relate it to, you know, the volunteers for Thanksgiving dinner at the churches and that. We have so many volunteers, but nobody really thought about where to put the volunteers. And so we have an overabundance, but then we have a shortage someplace else. And so I always tell people, this is why you really have to think about when to use volunteers, where, and then put them on hold and say, hey, this is when I'm going to need you later. Is that okay? Because that's when this really becomes critical to create true success. Because unfortunately, the storm that hit for us was basically the time of year when a lot of these businesses turn black revenue-wise. And that wasn't going to happen with this storm. And how do we help them when their revenue stream that turns on black is no longer there? And that means a lot of different ways to think to try to figure out how to help them recover. And that's the challenges we're going through right now. And that's where a lot of the agencies, I commend them. A lot of them have stepped up. A lot of them are trying to get really creative. I'll give you an example. Typically with one of the big things that happened in the agriculture community, as we all know, a lot of fencing got taken down and a lot of animals got out, and they're trying to get the area cleared so they can put fencing back up. Well, typically, if you take it from the federal government, there's a regulation of the fencing has to meet a certain criteria. Well, that's a typically increased cost because you think about fences we have in our area. They're 50 years old or older. They're not going to meet the criteria. But if they want to put new in, it's going to cost so much more and it's going to take longer. They've been allowed to do emergency as long as it meets what they have previously, they can do it. And so that's what we talk about, that innovative thinking in the time of need versus focusing on, oh no, this is the way we have to do it because it's the way we always done it. So I give a lot of credit what's been going on with this disaster, people trying to look at things differently. Another one is right now, it's a gap. A lot of farmers had forests that they had grown that they were going to use in their retirement to log, and that was going to be the retirement. And a number of them were destroyed. And right now, they're in a gap. There's really not assistance. So right now, they're literally focusing on trying to figure, can they create something to try to help with that type of situation, because it's something that falls in the gap. So these are the things we talk about. But the one thing I want to stress with all this is you don't have to talk to one agency. You may be able to get help from FEMA, SBA, USDA, the local resources, the Commonwealth of Virginia. So please understand that if you only go talk to one, that's the only one you can talk to. I stress to everyone, you talk to everyone. They will tell you whether they can assist you or not. You know, the one thing is if you have insurance, you can apply, but once you get your insurance money, you have to pay that back to the federal government for the difference of what you got from the federal government. So these are things you have to look at as you go through this. Another thing with this devastation of this storm, FEMA has done a huge ask for needing subcontractors to help with the recovery. And the federal government has really stepped up where companies have to get logged in. There's a direct tab now in sam.gov for federal assistance for disasters. And also on ours, what we call our DSBS system, we have that tab also. And that's where companies search for small businesses that SBA has created. And so we're trying to get it so the federal agencies can find that low-hanging fruit, and also those businesses, which I know several construction companies in the area and that could assist, just have to get that help from the Apex Accelerator to get in the system and then pursue those opportunities. And, you know, everybody looks at FEMA, but it's the Army Corps of Engineers. It's actually USDA. There's a lot of federal agencies that are involved in the area right now that are looking for disaster assistance, mental health services. So it is a long list. So just don't think it's just construction. It's not. It's many things. The one thing I want to point out is another intricate part is lots of times people get back to getting themselves recovery, and I always talk about the mitigation. One of the big things that's come out of this one is how many people lost their food products because of refrigeration, because they didn't have a generator. Well, this is a time that, once again, you can use SBA funds to help purchase a generator for in the future to mitigate that type of situation. These are examples. Emergency generator is probably the #1 issue I've heard. Raising units like HVACs and things like that, so if a flood hits, they're protected and not destroyed. Tree removal is another big one that's been coming up. Doing roof upgrades for the winds. The one thing I want to point out, if you're going to get federal assistance, depending on where you're located, flood insurance may be asked. Lots of people say they can't afford it. I don't, you know, private sector has got their insurance. FEMA has theirs. So as I tell people, take a look at it. These things you have to be aware of. Also, I'm trying to stress to people, you can get another double recovery. Some of the upgrades you're doing, just like insulation and things like that, you know, if you just do a little bit of improvement to it, so I'm R30, you go to R32, that's an improvement in energy, you can count that as a tax credit. So also realize that, look at the ripple effect of things you're having to do. What little bit extra can I possibly do that potentially also helps me down the line with my bottom line, so the cost isn't as steep as it originally would have been. So these are things you look at, and that's what these different areas for assistance in that, they're kind of in that mindset to try to help you think of these things, because we know you have so many things going on in your mind of just the day-to-day survival. So they just try to assist you and guide you in other directions. And with that, I'm going to show you some other things that I want to shrink this down. Actually, I'll just end it. There. All right, there we go. All right, so then if I go, right here is and these will change over time. Currently, these are the disaster centers in the region that have been set up. DRCs, BRCs are business resource centers. The DRCs are disaster resource centers. Trying to get it to scroll down. So as you can see, as we talked about, there's BRC and GALOX right there, actually where the event's being hosted today. The Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator Center is a BRC. And I thank them immensely. They stepped up early to help. The one in GALOX is right where the SBDC is at. The DRC in Giles just is the second one that got added at the end. I commend them because they were really having a struggle trying to find a place there. But FEMA and SBA were able to work something out, which was tremendous. One of the hardest hit areas in Grayson, Independence. They had a community resource day last week. Good feedback, good showing. The newest ones in Scott Wise, the Pioneer Center in Duffield, where Becky from the SBDC at Mountain Empire is located, and then Smith and Marion. So, and these will change as time goes on based on activity. If there's not enough activity, eventually FEMA and SBA, mostly FEMA, makes a decision whether to keep the location active or not based on the number of customers. So I just want you to be aware of that as you look at this and communicate that to people. These are the one in Tazewell. Damascus, one of the hardest hit areas, has one set up, and then also one in Whitsville. So as you can see, pretty extensive. Most of the days they operate 6 days a week, 8 to 6. The other thing is, they have their online assistants, their email assistants, their 800 number assistants. So there's a lot of different things available to help with that. So if I take this down, I'm going to show you. This is something that I was talking to you about earlier. They had one of these last week in Independence, and they actually have 2 this week. There's one in Abington tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. At the Highlands Fellowship Church. And then the one in Whitsville will be Saturday at the Whitsville Meeting Center. But this is literally as you can see, there's the federal agencies, there's the Virginia agencies, and then the local agencies. that will be there to assist the community. So this is not just businesses. This is everyone. And I highly stress this information get communicated so people are aware of these type activities that are being offered because this is rare. And I strongly say this, it is rare that we get this many players to spend a whole day together just for the support of one of these people, what they need and things like that. So, and as you see, there's going to be one in Smith and then Lee Scott Wise, that'll be coming down the line. So please, you know, if somebody you know, please let them be aware of these type things because it is there for them to help them during this difficult time. And especially as I tell people that with the holidays approaching, their main revenue streams impacted. These may be small blessings in disguise to kind of help them ride through the tide with this. And
Excuse me, Carl, we had, I think you still have the disaster assistance slide up, and Janice was wondering, I think the events, you might have another slide for those events, and I think that may be what she was looking for.
one?
Do you have that?
Let me see. Okay, that was Tazewell. You saw that one?
No, we still have that second page of the disaster assistance for the
Okay.
offices.
How about this one?
No. I think you need to minimize the disaster assistance slide.
Okay, let's see here. I'll close it. Okay. Do you see it now?
No?
Huh?
No?
No? Because it says on mine, it's showing.
But that might be something that you can maybe send me, and I'm going to be sending all the participants your slides. And then maybe
Okay.
you can send me the customer service center list and then those other events that are happening. And I'll share that with everyone.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, did I lose? Because I think I've lost the ability to share with you. Let's see here. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, this is the one now, and I'll forward it to you.
Okay.
I know Raphael's team and Jim have been working closely with this, but this is rare. In the past, you would have never really gotten this. So this is this new philosophy, and so for players to take advantage of with it. So like I said, there's one tomorrow in Abington. So and then Saturday in Whitfield, and then as I said, in the future, Smith and Lee Scott Wise. Last week it was in Independence. They had one. So I just want you to be aware of that. And then
Yeah, so this one is mostly for farmers.
No,
that's-
actually, it's
Oh.
everyone, because like the Virginia Small Business Finance Authority, that's the business side. And then some of the other players are for homeowners. So that's why I said it's really for everyone.
Okay.
So that's why I'm bringing it up to show you. Yes, a big concentration of it's ag because it's kind of ag focused. But if you really look at what's there, it's actually for pretty much everything. And that's what you kind of want. So with the different combinations. Do you see this one, the fact sheet?
Yes.
Okay. This, as he says, September 23rd through October 3rd. That's when it happened. And this is where it lists all the counties. The primary counties, those are the ones that get everything, you know, from a physical disaster to economic injury disaster loan. If it's what they call a contiguous county, that's a county that touches the primary county, they only get the economic injury disaster loan. So that means only businesses and nonprofits can benefit from that one, from the SBA side. So that's something I want you to kind of be aware of. And as you can see, physical damage December 2nd, the application deadline, economic injury July 1. These centers, they're great working with you if you're not clear on what you need to do and things like that. So they're a great asset that you need to take advantage of. They're there to help you. And same thing with if you're on online, you know, if you're struggling, just contact the 800 number. They will literally step you through it. It's all trying to make sure that you can apply. And then I tell people, you may get denied, but typically the denial is because of something not clear, nothing else, or they can't, they didn't get a form. And so I know during this time, a lot of people are stressed. And as soon as they see the denial, they shut down and say, oh, I'm not going to get anything from them. And I tell people, contact them, find out why the denial, and just be ready to supply what they need, because this is not unusual to happen. So I just want to make sure people understand that. And with that, what questions are there?
Well, I don't see any at the moment.
Okay. Well, I either did a really good job or a really bad job, one or the other.
No, you did a great job, as always, Carl. You always provide a lot of information, very thorough, and I will be sharing, as I said, your PowerPoint slide along with once you send me those other
Yeah,
the
I'll send
event
you that
form and
stuff right as soon as I get off.
right, and then the recording will be uploaded to our YouTube probably tomorrow. And I'll send that to all the participants as well. And our next new knowledge is going to be on November 20th. We're going to have Letterpress Communications back with us, and they're going to be speaking about Canva and using Canva for DIY photos and video content. So they've helped me tremendously, and they've been our speaker before and always get a good reception. And they're also going to be helping us with our business challenge, as I know you are, Carl. And
Yes.
um, and we appreciate you so much. Let's see. Yeah, we just have great presentation is from Nita. And if there are any questions, now's the time to ask, or you can contact Carl after, or come visit us here at the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator and see our SBA team that's in our office here, and not our your SBA team, to help you and answer any other questions. So we thank you again, Carl. And Nita, do you have any other thing you'd like to say? Or Janice says, thank you, Carl.
No,
I
thank
think
you
she,
all for everything you're doing.
I just want to
appreciate it.
say thank you. Carl is such a wealth of knowledge, and we always appreciate him.
yes, absolutely. All right. Well, everyone have a good afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Bye-bye.
Carl. Bye-bye.